What's up, guys? My name's Brandon, and welcome back to Apple Weekly. In this episode, we're going to discuss even more new iOS 18.2 features and changes. We're going to clear the confusion about Apple's ChatGPT integration. We're going to discuss why the cheaper Vision Pro has been delayed, a crazy AirTag story, and much more. And as always, if you want to stay updated with everything going on in the world of Apple, be sure to hit that subscribe button down below and check out the Apple Den newsletter. Okay, so we're going to start this video off with some myth busting, because this week there has been a lot of misinformation and just pure clickbait surrounding the ChatGPT integration on the iPhone. And this all stemmed from iOS 18.2 beta 2, because if you go into the settings and go to Apple Intelligence and Siri and then down to the ChatGPT extension, we now have a daily limit where you're either under the limit or over the limit. And what these clickbait videos would say is that once you go over that daily limit, you need to upgrade to ChatGPT Plus and pay $20 a month to continue using ChatGPT on your iPhone. And I think you guys, my audience, you guys are a lot smarter than the majority of people out there, because you're a lot more informed about what's actually going on. But if you're not following this stuff on a day-to-day basis, you're going to believe a lot of these lies and a lot of this misinformation that these people are putting out there online. So to set the record straight here, that is entirely not true. You do not need to upgrade to ChatGPT Plus if you go over your daily limit here. So let me break this down, and this might get a little bit technical because I want to, inform the people who don't know a lot about this and also the people who do know about this. I want to hopefully teach both of you guys something. So first off, the daily limit. Why is that even here? So that is not Apple's, inclusion. Apple is not adding a daily limit to ChatGPT. That is ChatGPT's own rate limit. They've had that since forever. That is nothing new. Apple is just making that more clear in the settings that ChatGPT does have a rate limit. And if you read right below that, it says that you will have access to ChatGPT's advanced capabilities until you reach your daily limit. Additional requests will use the basic version for up to 24 hours. So by default, when you are under the daily limit, you are using ChatGPT 4.0. That is the default that's built into this extension. Now, when you go over the limit, which the limit is going to vary, it doesn't really have an exact number of queries. It just depends on what Apple or ChatGPT rather considers advanced. But anyways, once you go over the limit, it's going to switch over to the GPT 4.0 mini model. ChatGPT will continue to work and work very well using a 4.0 model. It's just going to be using the 4.0 mini model. And you can see the difference in the models right here. Like 4.0 mini is just going to be a lot more, lightweight and faster. It's not going to give you as complex of answers, but it's going to get the job done. You're still going to be able to answer pretty much anything you throw at ChatGPT on your iPhone. And I can tell you right now that in my real world testing, I have not been able to figure out what these advanced capabilities are. I actually had to go into ChatGPT, ask for examples of what an advanced capability actually is with GPT 4.0, and then ask for example prompts using, those advanced capabilities. And then I ran those on both GPT 4.0 and GPT 4.0 mini, and the end result from both of these was pretty much the same. And you can see what some of these prompts are. They're extremely complex and just things that nobody on their iPhone would ever input into ChatGPT, and probably not even on a Mac. Most people that's going to be doing these type of crazy complex tasks and these crazy prompts are going to be using the ChatGPT standalone application, and they likely already have the ChatGPT Plus subscription anyway, so they're not even going to find this section of the video relevant. So the reality is most of you will not need to pay attention to your daily limit and which model ChatGPT is using, because the end result to you and the things you're going to be asking on a day-to-day basis are going to be exactly the same regardless of the model. Again, it really only changes when you get into really complex multi-step prompts. And if you're wondering if you should upgrade to ChatGPT Plus, I would say probably not. I mean, the only people who should upgrade are going to be people who want access to the advanced voice mode, which you see down there at the bottom. That is a game changer. I love that feature. It's not baked into the iPhone just yet. You have to use it in the ChatGPT application. But of course, you do also want, ChatGPT Plus if you're somebody who uses this on a daily basis for your business or your work, and you like, searching the web with ChatGPT and a lot of those other really complex things. I just think most people know if they need ChatGPT Plus or not. So yeah, once again, if you're under the daily limit, that means you're using GPT-4o. If you're over the limit, you're just going to be using GPT-4o mini. The end result for 99.999% of your queries are going to be exactly the same, so I would not worry about it. So I hope that helped clear the air about this confusion that's been going on surrounding ChatGPT on the iPhone and it costing $20 a month to use it. Anyways, let's move on to some other iOS 18.2 beta 2 features and changes. So something new here in this second beta is that we now have live activity support for Safari downloads. So now when you're downloading a file, you will see that our live activity here on the lock screen and also in the dynamic island will show up, and it will show a progress bar until it finishes downloading, which is a nice touch. Now there's also a new battery intelligence framework that was found in the code of iOS 18.2 beta 2, and this could show you how long it will take for your iPhone to charge up. So this is something that we don't know if it's going to be an Apple Intelligence feature or not. It does have intelligence in the name, so it is a possibility, but we should be seeing that at some point in the near future. Now we also have a change for mail. So if we go into our settings and go to notifications and then go down to the mail section right here, and then go down until you see customize notifications. And right here we have a section for badges. You can now change the number that shows on your notification badge to be from your primary unread messages or all unread messages. And what this refers to is if we go inside of our mail app, primary, of course, is right here. That's going to be our important mail, that Apple Intelligence, or not even Apple Intelligence, that your device deems as being important. So if it's not in primary, it will fall under one of the others, such as transactions, updates, promotions, or if you just want to see all mail, you have that there as well. So if you only want to see the badges for the important primary mails, then you now have the option to do that right here. Now there's also a new feature that I requested back with iOS 18.0, and that is inside of our apps section and settings. If you go into photos and then scroll down, we have a brand new toggle here for loop videos. So that is on by default, but you can now turn that off if you do not want your videos in your camera roll to loop once they end. So now if I go to the end of this video, you'll see that once it finishes, it will not loop like it did by default from iOS 18.0 to 18.1. And if you invoke the vehicle motion cues feature right here, so if we go ahead and turn this on, you'll notice that we now have our notification inside of our dynamic island. So I am recording my screen right now, so you cannot see it as good, but it will show up right there in the dynamic island. And when we turn that off, you'll see that it will show up there as well as turning off. And I'm not sure why two of them were added right there. So that's a little bug in 18.2 beta 2. Let's remove one. And if you're somebody who uses the iPhone mirroring feature on macOS Sequoia, you're now able to have your personal hotspot set up and iPhone mirror at the same time. Now, of course, one of the great new features here with iOS 18.2 beta 2 is another way to access the image wand. So if you select some text right here, you'll now see in the menu here, we have create image. And when you do that, it will utilize the image wand feature and create an image based on the text that you have right there. It will pick up the keywords and make that image for you. So that did a pretty good job there. I like that image of, a pool surrounded by trees and bushes on a mountaintop with snow. Pretty awesome. I've noticed that image wand in general has also just improved here. Pretty much all of the Apple Intelligence features related to generating images, so image playground, Genmoji, and image wand have all improved here in beta 2 compared to the beta 1, and I would expect that to continue until the final release, and of course even after that as well. And I did also want to add some additional details to the new Find My feature in iOS 18.2 beta 2, because this is an absolute game changer, I feel like, and a lot of people are not really seeing this as a big deal. But if you go into Find My, we now have a section for lost AirTag, or if it's a device, an iPhone, AirPods, you will see this section right here where it says show contact info, and also the main one, share item location. So show contact info, this has been here before when you can, put your phone up to an AirTag or a device and get the contact information, but this whole interface here is new. When you tap on continue, you will be able to input your phone number or email right there. But again, the big one here is share share item location. So when you tap on this, it will basically give you a link. So when I tap on continue, it will give me a link right here that I can share with a trusted party. So whether that's a person, whether that's an airline, whether that's the police, I can share this link with them and they will be able to access the location of my device or my lost or stolen goods with their own iPhone. They won't need me anymore to follow them around with my iPhone and checking on my Find My app. They'll be able to have access in real time to where that device is located. And that is huge, especially if you're not in the vicinity of where, your stolen goods are in this case, or lost goods are. So this is great, especially for airlines. And what's interesting is that once you share the link, you will be able to see how many people have visited that link. It doesn't show you exactly who it is, but it will show you how many have visited that link. And you could also turn this off if you want, and it will auto expire after 7 days. Now, one, important note that I didn't really see anybody talking about is that you can't just, see the location of your goods online. Like if you sent this link to somebody and they were anonymous in a private browser, they would not be able to access your location using this link. They will have to sign into their Apple ID account, or they will have to input an email as an Apple partner, like for an airline or something like that. So yeah, I just think this feature is a big, big deal. And I think we'll start to see that more over time. Now, as far as the performance goes on iOS 18.2 beta 2, I have to say the performance here on the second beta is a lot better than with beta 1. With beta 1, I had multiple reboots, or I should say resprings. Even after the first day, I had a couple of resprings and Image Playground was very buggy, but beta 2 is a lot better here overall, not just with the AI features, but also just in general. And that even shows with our Geekbench score here. So we get a 35.27 and an 86.95. So if you compare that to previous scores, you can see right there, that is the highest multi-core score that we've scored yet since, October, since early October. So solid scores there. And of course, single core is solid as well. So really no complaints at all for me when it comes to performance. Now, when it comes to battery life, that is another story. Battery life is not so great. However, I have been using Apple Intelligence and ChatGPT a lot, like every single day for hours per day. So that could have something to do with it. I did notice that Image Playground will still make my device quite warm, when I'm using it. And also when I'm using ChatGPT, it does make my device warm, and it also drains battery like crazy when I'm using ChatGPT consecutively for, dozens of minutes in a row. So yeah, battery life still not great. And I think it's mostly related to the Apple Intelligence features. And of course it is still a beta, so I would expect that to improve with time. Now, as far as what to expect next from Apple, next up is going to be iOS 18.2 beta 3. And I would expect that next week. Now on Monday, we do have a holiday. So on the 11th is Veterans Day. So we might not be seeing 18.2 beta 3 on Monday. Apple is kind of weird when it comes to holidays. Sometimes they do release, sometimes they don't. So we should see it regardless sometime early in the week. If not Monday, maybe Tuesday or Wednesday, we should see that third beta. And then after that, we could see weekly releases until the final release, which we're expecting that final release, the final public release for 18.2 at some point in early December. I would say within the first 2 weeks. So either the week of December 2nd or the week of December 9th. Mark Gurman did say that we're going to see it on the week of December 2nd, but we'll still have to wait and see on that. All right, so now let's move on to the latest Apple news. And let's start with the Apple Vision Pro, because Ming-Chi Kuo is now saying that the cheaper version has been delayed until 2027, but the Vision Pro with the M5 chip is coming next year. And he followed that up by saying, I think what really drove Apple to delay the cheaper Vision Pro is that simply reducing the price would not help create successful use cases. It's similar to the HomePod situation. Even after launching the cheaper HomePod Mini, Apple's smart speakers failed to become mainstream products. So that's interesting. And also, according to Mark Gurman, Apple is, quote, seriously considering an iPhone connected glasses-like device. So he said, quote, Apple is seriously considering a device that offloads the computing components to an iPhone and serves as an accessory for watching movies. That's something that would be roughly akin to the glasses offered by companies like Xreal, which I actually did a video on those last year. The benefit for Apple is that it would reinforce the iPhone as the center of its product ecosystem and offer something that could be a much more popular option than the $3,500 Vision Pro. So it's going going to be really interesting to see what the future of the Vision Pro entails. Now, I have to say that this week we did see a new beta of Vision OS 2.2, and it has a game-changing feature. I almost never use the word game-changing, but this new ultra-wide display when you mirror your Mac screen to the Vision Pro is an absolute game changer. I basically want to sell one of my studio displays now because I really do not need it at all. Like when I'm working now, I rarely actually use my real display ever since this update came out. It's because this ultra-wide view is just so incredible. The clarity, the amount of space I get on my desktop now, it's just amazing. I'm using my Vision Pro now more than I ever have. So we'll see if that continues, but I'm really liking these software updates for the Vision Pro. And speaking of the Mac, we did just see 3 new M4 Macs get released yesterday on Friday. So I did make a video or a couple of videos on the M4 Macs so far, and I will have more videos coming out on those. So if you picked up the M4 Mac Mini, M4 MacBook Pro, or M4 iMac, let me know in a comment down below and how you're enjoying it. And also be sure to check out my videos on those M4 Macs. And then finally, just as tradition, let's talk about another crazy AirTag story. So this time, a journalist who was in the process of setting up an investigation into a bike theft in London realized that his own family e-cargo bike was stolen from his home. How ironic. He said that the thieves must have been watching his house and knew how expensive the bike was, but thankfully for him, he did have an AirTag hidden inside of the frame. So of course, he called the police to report the theft, but they didn't want to get involved. However, they did issue him an incident number and said they'd call back within 2 days, but they never did. So he took matters into his own hands and went to the apartment complex where the AirTag was pinging on his Find My app. And when he was standing outside of the apartments, a friendly resident let him inside. And that's when he called the police again. But once again, they were of no help because they said that since it was a multi-story complex and not a specific address, they can't help. So he knocked on doors, asked if people saw it, and when he got nowhere, he just left. But about 10 minutes after leaving the building, Find My showed that the bike was on the move again. So the man ran down the road every time it pinged a new location until he finally wound up in a parking lot where he saw his bike, which was missing the front tire, leaning against a wall. And next to it was a man who was dressed in all black with a ski mask on, standing by a black car with the trunk opened, ready to load the bike inside. And instead of watching it happen, this man has balls of steel because he went up to him and said, "I'm terribly sorry, but that's my bicycle." The thief looked shocked and surprised at how confident this guy was and said he was just going to his friend's house. So the man whose bike it was put his hands on his bike and the thief just jumped in the driver's seat of the car and sped away. And in that car was the front tire of that bike. It was inside of the trunk. So that is amazing. He got his bike back, which is a very expensive bike, but it was missing a tire. But that's a lot better than just missing the bike altogether, because if the police are of no help, without an AirTag, what would have happened? He probably would have never seen that bike again. So awesome story, and just shows again that you need an AirTag on all of your, expensive, or not even expensive, just all of your possessions, because you never know when this could happen to you. Anyways, guys, that's it for this week. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week.